We are getting set, folks, for match number 3 today. Now, where the last match on paper, really was a tight one, and we got that end result. This next matchup on paper is not so close, but I've got a funny feeling, Cookies, that we are going to see a closer match than maybe the numbers would tell.
Are you implying that just because Arial is currently in a spot where they might get auto-relegated or play relegations, that this is not going to be a close game? Because let me tell you something.
No, I'm saying it is. Their backs are against the wall.
Well, you watch your mouth, okay? This team, as long as they have Freak, as long as they have Moo Moo and Jay, this team can compete with anybody. Let me tell you that right now. And Tones, I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it again. He's nasty. He played a decent game yesterday. Yes, he only went 9 for 14. But when he got his 9, he was a menace to society. And he was a menace on the entry on that knock. So I expect more of that today, especially since you think they just don't have any chance at all, Brim. They think they're just going to lay down and just go to sleep. Let RentFree just win.
I hope they have the same combative attitude that you have, because I'm sitting here agreeing with you and you're still coming at me like we're in the middle of an argument.
I'm passionate about this.
Yeah, they better be too. Tanner, can RentFree bring the same energy?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, Filthy's the king of T2. We've said this like 3 times. You don't win Challenger League as much as he has, and not be a threat every single game that you're in there. RentFree, however, the last couple of days they've shown that they're beatable. Like, they're not a team that's perfect anymore, as we saw at the beginning of the stage. They hit their last 2 games. They have lost both of them. One the Nocturnes on Bank, and they lost last night. I believe it was on Villa, off stream to Aqualix, with putting Aqualix at the top of the leaderboard, which blows my mind. But that being said, it is a roster with absolutely stellar cast of players. My highlight player today is Twiz. He's a player that's just come into from being dropped from West Garfield Park in stage 1, who every single game so far this stage has been a consistent factor, the backbone of his team on the Hearts Breach. Just an absolute stellar player. So if you're to answer your question, Brim, yes, 100%.
Okay, and I'm you throw it back to Cookies. I'm a little scared now.
Cookies, what are your critical points for Arial? That was a war. Good toss.
I'm doubling down. Everyone may say,
I'm looking at now.
If you're a standings watcher, you're looking at this as just like Arial, they just need to have this David and Goliath miracle to win this game. RentFree's played like the same map every week. They've looked beatable every time they've played, and that same map, by the way, is Bank. They played it 1,000 times. A map Arial is good on, by the way. That's one thing Arial is good at. Excellent at Bank. Forceful would know. Yeah, and I'm glad you agreed. And it's like their map pulls the line in a favorable way if you're Arial. And Dexter isn't exactly shooting like he was in the, first couple of games. It's not like he's undiable. This is going to be a fun matchup. Freak versus Dexter. Both of them are getting looks right now for the NFL. And let me tell you, let's see how they match up. Let's see who's truly better. Head to head, baby. Right now. Live on TV.
I mean, head to head, numbers suggest it's RentFree.
I mean, numbers definitely show that it's going to be RentFree. But, Arial have looked really competitive the last couple of plays. Yeah. Bouncing a little bit, I guess. But I think RentFree, still a top-notch team. They just need to keep it simple. First, don't go to Bank. Arial is a team that loves to prepare for counter stress. They're a team that loves to break down how you like to play. You've got 5 VODs on Bank. They have plenty of material to break it down. So RentFree, first tick in the box to have a good game today. Just don't go to Bank. Go to any other map. Go to Chalet. Go to Villa. Go to somewhere else. And then the last point, every round is winnable. Arial has demonstrated they're really solid on their entry picks. They can get the man advantage really quickly, but they typically stall before they want to go and close out the round on the execute. There's windows of opportunities where RentFree, if they get mobile, they get active, they move their feet a little bit, they can catch Arial by surprise, and then they can basically shut them down. If RentFree want to have any success, that's what they're going to have to do when they want to claw back rounds that might seem like you're about to lose them.
Okay, well, they went to the bank. They put in, a 5-year term deposit. It's time to withdraw. It's time to not go back there, Cookies.
Let's see. Insta-ban does not include Bank just yet. Let's hold our breath. Let's see. Second ban, Arial, they haven't banned it yet.
I think they want it.
Are they gonna ego challenge them on Bank? And it's getting increasingly possible. It's oh my god.
It's
down to the final 2.
Gave them the option.
Okay.
Wow.
Anticlimactic, but we're going to Villa for the millionth time in a row for Arial. Arial has played Villa 4 games in a row now. Or I think this is the 4th time in a row.
I mean, they've looked better each time that they've played it. I know with Tones yesterday, once he found his footing, he absolutely was an impact player. Absolute strong lurk on both the Twitch and the knock. So, I mean, if that's a comfort map for him, it's probably a good idea to go back to that. It's, again, kind of like an equalizer map. We saw that last stage with West Garfield Park when they brought in Rudy. You want to go to maps that your subs can be comfortable on. Maps like Bank, maps like Skyscraper might be a little bit more complicated, a little bit more intricacy to them, a little bit more learning needs to happen as a team. And, going to a map like Villa is perfectly acceptable for a team with a sub.
So we'll put the predictions up, but CJ, do you think we had maybe a little bit of a match of chicken there as we get down to the end and Arial Arise just leaves up and they go, come on, do it, pick it, I dare you.
I think there was a mistake, by the way. I'm pretty sure I picked RentFree. I would never pick Arial Arise ever.
If you picked RentFree, why am I covering them? And if I picked Arial Rise, why are you covering them?
For fun, guys.
I'm not sure.
Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Well, because Tanner, it's because you're on the right, okay?
Yeah,
so
that's
you
true.
do Rent-Free.
That's true.
CJ's on the left.
That's how the schedule works.
He does Arial.
But guys,
Okay.
how much of an unknown quantity is the RentFree Villa? I've heard nothing of it. From the grapevine or from the rumor mill, I've heard nothing of the RentFree Villa. First of all, have you?
No, it feels like I think they played like 2 maps all stage. I mean, I think I'm exaggerating here, but I might not be. I
Wait,
think
they've played another
I
map?
don't think you are.
Chalet. They played Chalet. I know
I thought
that.
it was just Bank this whole
Did
time.
they play in Oregon? I think they might have played in Oregon somewhere in there. Could be wrong. It could be from the quals. I just think like this is a map that we don't really have a lot of data on how RentFree like to play it, and that's an unknown quantity. So if you're Arial Rise, that you want to go into this game and kind of play your best self and not try and worry too much about what your opponents are trying to do. And if you're RentFree, you want to get chaotic with it and unpredictable with it. This is going to be a good game, regardless of predictions. I'm excited for this one. It's been the game of the day for me.
I can't wait for unpredictable because since we're going back to Villa, we're not used to it at all. So we can't possibly predict how this game is going to be. But now we're getting into it. Arial Arise, Rent-Free, going to Villa.
As an Italian man, my last name is D'Apollonio, so I feel very at home in the Italian countryside that we see in Villa, and hopefully both of these teams feel pretty comfortable on it too. However, one caveat is both of these teams played it last Playday, yesterday, and they both lost it, John.
Yeah, although we did mention, at least on the desk, that there has been a gradual set of improvement, at least for Arial Rise, every time they've gone back to this map. In terms of bookwork, though, it seems like RentFree can get a lot more accomplished when they want to go to Villa instead of Bank, so it's more of like the comfort pick against maybe having an idea as to how your opponents are going to play, because I don't think we've seen Arial Rise bring Bank out, at least this stage, so there isn't a lot of prep work in that department that RentFree really could have done. But heading on into Villa, you must be really excited. The one day you get to cast, you get an Oregon and then 2 Villa games. You must be so excited about that. Some of the most exciting maps you could see inside of a Playday at all. But anyways, I digress. Another map for Arial Rise to play on. The same one once again, I believe the 4th time in a row now. Maybe it can be a win this time about, but we'll have to wait and see.
An interesting hard breach ban. We don't typically see an ace ban from anybody, which maybe it was just kind of a twist ban because on the hard support, he has been going kind of crazy on the ace. And as we know as well for Arial Arise, they're very comfortable utilizing the Flores, especially people like Jay, when they start getting involved with those Rotero drones. It's very sneaky with them and finds a way to get rid of a whole lot of utility before you even know. It's just poof, gone up in a cloud of smoke.
Well, the mirror being banned, not going to see her in play for any of those elaborate extensions we saw a couple of times last matchup. And then the final ban, that will be the Valkyrie. So less of an emphasis on information, at least on that defensive side, but I could imagine a lot of heavy extensions are bound to happen. I believe we've seen Arial Rise bring out the Goyo countless times before on this map, but also having both the Wamai and Jaeger available on top of a zombie with countless other shields. Utility is going to be the name of the game on the defensive side, and then it'll be it'll be up to the offense to try to set up that tone, set that pace up correctly, try to break the util as quickly as possible so they can actually get in the meat potatoes of the round, which would be the actual site execute itself.
Yes, and once again, we already talked about, or the analyst desk. I said like I'm part of the desk. No, I'd never, ever be on an analyst desk. I'd rather cast forever. But they talked about how Tones was really impactful on a lurking role. Last time we saw him on this map just about 24 hours ago. But we'll have to wait until about round 7 for that to happen. And all eyes are going to be really towards Dexter on the Yana once again. At the beginning of the season, everybody was thinking Dexter is the next Bolo. He's the next Newers that came out of nowhere coming into comp, and boom, amazing on the entry, and could transition to the NFL or NAL, like CJ was saying. And since then, he's been kind of quiet. He was a big factor in the first couple of games for RentFree, but he's kind of gone quiet. Sure, his entry numbers still look good, but they were so juiced from the early on games that it almost seems like it's infallible. This is a game that you want to look at Dexter and hope he bounces back, because he does have that talent.
You know, it's kind of the same storyline that we saw by Kento. You know, you had that first honeymoon week, those couple of play days we had where he was just unstoppable with that Finka LMG. And then the same kind of goes for Dexter, except he's not on a Finka, he's actually on the Ayana. But speaking of the Finka, Butters will get that direct entry, Freak will go down, but at least Tones is not that far behind to eventually get that equalization. Still having Dexter alive though, it's still going to allow a lot of driving force to be had trying to get that map control, and Tones probably expecting more reinforcement up above. He will just fall back, move down a floor lower, and try to regroup with the rest of his teammates that are still kind of lurking over near that living room and library position.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, trading Freak for Butters, a Malusi for a Finka, that's a pretty dang good trade. None of the nades were used and none of the adrenal surges were used. So any chip damage that Arial Rise does will kind of remain and be good. Reed Adams, aggressively peaking 90 with the SMG-11, almost gets his head clean ripped off by Dexter. But instead he realizes that, yeah, no, I should not re-peak that ever in a million years. I'm Smoke, I need to be alive. These Toxic Babe canisters, all 3 of them still left in play, need to have impact.
Those smokes will be very beneficial, especially put in the right hands of Reed Adams. Dexter's still alive, though, able to do his job and find 1 kill, I believe, in the back of bookshelves. Filthy as well, I believe, caught on a rotation, if not at least playing to the top of Study, is able to find a frag of his own onto Mohas. So now that leaves just a 2 versus 4 with Tone still off the site, playing near top red, and the attackers being well aware of that. Max will try to deal with that Wamai immediately, but will get punished. Dexter, though, is able to get rid of Reed Adams, forcing Tones having to retake in a 1v3 as he's on 5 health. And having proximity alarms means he has no impact grenades to try to play underneath to stop that defuse from going down. He'll have to walk up main stairs, essentially the walk of shame, back up that top floor as Dexter is there to wait for him with utmost patience, granting the first round immediately for the offensive side of RentFree.
I mean, you can say it was the walk of shame, but I think Dexter made that a walk of pain because he just immediately put that poor man's into a body bag and took the lead for RentFree. This is the most life we have seen out of this team across the last couple of play days, because they went from first place to about 6th or 7th, which is insanely rough for a team of this caliber that everybody immediately started throwing the, oh my gosh, is this the best Challenger League team we've ever seen, after the first couple of play days where they were absolutely dominating everybody that dared take them to bank. But now we're seeing them on a new battleground. Sure, yesterday they played Villa, but that was off stream. We didn't quite get to see it, but we're seeing it now. And so far, it's looking pretty dang strong, despite the result of losing to Gasher yesterday. But there's a lot of teams that should take a page out of Gasher's book, because he's doing a pretty good job leading his team, especially on this map.
Must be doing something right if his team is currently top of stage 2. So definitely put that somewhere. At least so far for Arial Rise, a big thing in general is if they're able to keep Freak alive or not, and how well he can do on that entry game. I think although trading out that 1-for-1 definitely seemed more favorable on paper for Arial Rise, because Malusi had already put down all of her util, whereas Butters is a much more active player on that Finka role. When you have that main driving force be someone like Freak or Mo, as we typically call Arial Rise the Freak and Mo show a lot of games, when you lose out on one of those really important players off the rip, that can lead to a lot of problems, especially in that fragging department. That was one thing that looked really good the last time Arial Rise were playing on this map, was how effective Freak was at finding those entries. I think he ended up going double digits in that matchup altogether. So as long as Freak can continue to be shut down early on by RentFree, these attacking rounds should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, the attacking rounds as well, with just Dexter getting 3Ks every round, that'd be pretty straightforward too, as Butters is taking a pretty straightforward path all the way up 90 and going to take the gunfight on red, potentially if the peek is there. Sees the head for just a moment as Freak's going to take a whole lot of damage. Thankfully, he's Thunderbird and maybe has a Kona station in his back pocket or put on the ground near him. But as Dexter falls at the hands of Tones, the refrag from Maxley keeps everything even.
Yeah, at least there was still that first entry, though, by Tones. A nice shot landed by the Amayan. That main 3K player is gone, but the rest of RentFree can most certainly try to hold their weight. Twist able to get rid of Mohes, and now Freak has actually changed positions. I'm not too sure if anyone's actually acknowledged him moving so close to the AV doorway. It seems like that will not be matter of fact. He's able to get rid of Max, equalizing us once again. 3 versus 3. Jay is able to get rid of Butters now as well, and Freak almost finds a second near the red stairwell, but cannot connect enough shots in that position. Jay now in a 1 versus 2, but about 70 seconds left to kill, so a lot of opportunities here for RentFree just to take their time and maybe utilize that last drone on the board to figure out where exactly Jay is playing from to at least get that tag team and make sure he can't win anything in this position. And they won't even need a tag team, it'll just be the player of the Habana stuck in the middle, or just playing in the middle of Master, not even stuck there waiting for the cross to happen by the smoke, and not crouching behind that shield will grant a second round here already for RentFree.
Yeah, there was some absolute chaos over towards the red stairs. People going up the stairs and down the stairs and pushing it from 90, and shenanigans over towards boar and zebra and all different kinds of animals over on the 90 side. Toxic Babe canisters, as well as Freak, just trying to hold onto that position for as long as possible. And ultimately, it was a very costly position for both teams to fight for, but RentFree came out just that little bit better. And then as soon as they were right next to the bomb site, they felt comfortable enough to peek on in it and won gunfights once again. Dominant fashion is the gunfight factor for RentFree. It just seems like they're comfortable taking and letting the game boil down to good old physical aspects. Good physical siege. Take your gunfights and win them.
And altogether, having RentFree still get control of Master, it went a long way. Because if you just have to worry about, statue and also maybe that trophy position, you could potentially win that, especially if the timing is really off as to when you want to push in. But when you have someone holding down those long lines of sights, it can be very difficult to have to focus on those crossfires that are pretty much across the map, essentially, when you are in that aviator position. So great readjustment by RentFree, and also, yeah, that comfort of knowing anybody on your team can step up in that frag department. I know it was Tanner that, chose the highlight player of Twist. He found a couple of important gunfights in that last round, even though Dexter was one of the first people to fall against Tones. So still, just having that readjustment be made at any given moment, it goes a long way for RentFree.
Yes, definitely does, because Twist is already in. Seems like he's going to be playing entry, as Dexter and Butters are actually both behind them, and they're going in for a rush. Wallbangs coming through, red pings, Butters falls to the MX4 Storm, and Twist actually able to fell Reed Adams. Also looks pretty good. They forgot that Mohes and Tones are still left alive inside the bomb site. They're the anchors, and it all boils down to a 2v1, John, only 50 seconds into the round.
And they know where Max is as well. They just spotted his head in the middle of laundry room. So not the best position altogether for RentFree, as they just conga line down Memo. And all their players are basically left in a memorial because they are all gone and potentially forgotten soon enough. 2 minutes to kill and 2 lion scans left for Max. They could definitely make this play work, but it would be very difficult. Not fully committing to moving outside of laundry room, as he does not want to get just double swing without having any natural cover. So he's just waiting for someone on the side of Arial Rise to maybe jump that gun and force a direct 1 versus 1. Now we'll try to commit to maybe try to find someone over near China perhaps, but just isn't fully aware of that player's position altogether. And Jay just playing with great patience. He doesn't really want to overswing against Maxley, as he knows 2 clean shots could put that castle in the dirt. One of the many few stuns left in the pocket of Max will now get tossed out, but he still has to try to trench his way forward. Jay trying to bait him out a little bit, maybe helping Freak get a bit more aggressive. There goes the first swing, and Max only landing a couple of shots on Jay will not even kill the castle. And having backup by the alibi as well definitely made things a little impossible, it seemed, for Maxley. Air the Rise finally getting around one on the board, but that was a pretty risky play altogether for RentFree, I'd have to say.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that we know about Arial Arise, it's that their anchor play is pretty good most of the time to stop something like a rush, and they're incredibly disciplined. We saw them, both players, left alive for Arial Arise, sitting there holding an angle for like 50 seconds and not peeking. And you were saying, hey, look, they're looking pretty disciplined. That's always going to be the case with Arial Arise. They breathe, eat, and sleep discipline. That's their whole MO. And it netted them their first round. For RentFree, they tried to go for something a little bit saucy. And it seems like teams, when they attack Kitchen for the first time, we saw last game as well as this game, they like to go for failed rushes.
Not even a successful one. Hate to see it. But yeah, sometimes trying something a little unlikely can maybe help you win a couple of rounds. But yeah, that discipline by Arial Arise altogether.
And another thing.
It kept their core strong.
One thing is at least RentFree timed their lion scan correctly.
That's true. I would say maybe the Dokkaebi call as well, but they had no Dokkaebi last round. But in particular, not going to see the lion once again. Different info op this time. Maxley is actually on the Jackal. And Butters is not in the Finka. This time, Dexter's actually rocking that operator instead. Dexter normally likes to hard pick in the Ayana almost every single round. She brings a lot of value to her team, a fantastic gun, hence why a lot of entry or secondary entries would like to play her. Nades, a Gone 6. She really does have the full kit, and the only reason why Finka has now taken that spot is because, well, her primary gun is just slightly better, and her primary kit just gives you more HP. If you have enough information as is, it's not that big of a deal. So, still having that Finka, it's pretty much going to be the same purpose served by Dexter. He wants to get in the building as quickly as possible and try to work those one-for-one gunfights. And Mohesi, already having to worry about grenades so early in this round, will begin to slowly fall back. And seems like the Nomad has been able to deal a little bit of damage on towards Freak. Once again, just trying to force back this extension as quickly as possible. And there it is. That key entry player we always talk about finds one, but at least Mohes is there to swiftly find the refrag. Dexter now gone.
Yeah, and we're also going to see the track immediately forcing somebody like Mohes to really fall back. But Freak, he rotated in, and it's a pendulum. It's a revolving door of Arial Arise defenders and roamers that are just popping in and out of Kitchen like whack-a-mole. And unfortunately, RentFree don't have a big enough mallet to really knock down all of them. The pressure was from so many different sides, and you send Dexter in by himself. He has an idea where one player is, then gets surprised by a second, and a beautiful shot coming out of Mo means that, yeah, you're done. It's over. As well as the life of Butters is finished, as Freak nets his second on the round.
Yeah, really stepping up here for the rest of his teammates as now they have a pretty good position altogether. RentFree now trying to pick up the pieces. They still have Maxley playing underneath. The final Inox scanner goes out, and that will, at least locate the Aruni for a couple of seconds. But Reed Adams, he's just going to continue to reposition, and it does gather some information on one player, but there's still 3 more to find overall for RentFree. The Habana Filthy is not even going to try to play over near Master. She'll just give up that entire campaign and try to go elsewhere. But I think with Mo Hess now readjusting as well, this could be a good opportunity to kill that Habana, especially if there is no direct information. But a yellow ping will locate that Malusi spot, killing her outright, and a second kill is lined up as well for Filthy. Great readjustment on the player close to the rotation hole, and now we're back on even footing for both teams. 30 seconds left. Max steps up in the middle of Astro's stairs and finishes off Jay, but before that kill goes down, he's able to find one, and Freak in the middle of bathroom doing so much for his team opens up with a refrag and closes out with one as well. The Jackal falls, and now we're on even footing, not only with the man count, but the round count as well.
Yep, I mean, not technically on the man count, because,
it did turn a
1-0. 1-0 has Freak pop off, but what a wonderful round from Freak, not only being one of the initial roamers and taking early gunfights, but also falling back and being an anchor. That's a successful roam round. He didn't decide, hey, I'm going to go sit in the basement for the rest of the round. I want to go help my team. And he did, and looked quite good. For Arial Arise, if they get this 3-3 split, I think it might actually be pretty good for them, considering how well RentFree has done on the attacking side historically across multiple maps. That is sort of their strong suit, where a player like Butters isn't necessarily getting involved as much as somebody like Dexter. You want the two-headed spear, a two-pronged attack from the entries, and right now we're only seeing one.
And things are just looking a little bit more weaker on that overall aggression by RentFree. Round 1 looked completely surgical, and the rest has been kind of up in the air. A lot of rounds getting pretty close and down to the wire as is. Definitely have to agree, we need to see a better step up overall for RentFree. Aviator back on the drawing board, though, for Arial Arise. This was probably RentFree's strongest round altogether, although it was a complete one-for-one trade against Butters and Freak. Still having that immediate insertion on the building and forcing back the roamers in an early time, it did allow RentFree to set up with relative ease, and having Dexter just be able to do whatever he wants, it does set yourself up for a pretty good attacking round, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, let Dexter off the leash, and he's going to be a pretty lethal dog. And Butters, even on a leash, seems to be getting put in a coffin consistently, as Freak will cut him down. Tone's taking a whole lot of damage as Twist was holding the cutoff, but unfortunately, he couldn't land that final bullet, that last decisive one. But the nade, if he had thrown it, probably would have done enough damage through the drone hold, because Tones wants more. He wants more. He wants more. He's never going to stop pushing until now he falls off once again.
Oh, great shot by Freak, waiting for the Habana Bells to finally do their job, and he just lands a crisp pre-fire onto Max. C4 goes out, and it just lands onto Dexter's body, blowing him up sky high, and granting a 5v2 for Arial to Rise altogether. Twist's position has already been confirmed at this point. He's still just playing out near board window, not able to do all that much in the round as is, and Filthy once again just trying to change locations, trying to have more value on the round besides getting that double wall opened up near board leading into red, which actually costed his teammate a life as is. Eventually Twist will hop in the building, gets rid of Freak, but his job has already been well done, finding those quick 2 kills in the beginning of the round, and now RentFree, they still have to readjust, but at least things look a little bit better for them.
Yeah, just a little bit better, but it still doesn't look good. And if they win this round, you're going to say, hey, Arial Rise, they weren't disciplined enough. I praise them for being disciplined. And it's going to take their mistake to lose this round, because they are absolutely in the driver's seat. They're halfway down the interstate. They have their cruise control set to 60, and they're chilling, playing their favorite song while they're just waiting for anybody on RentFree to pop into their crosshairs. They're holding angles. Mo can swing over towards 90 and take a gunfight. It won't be the worst thing in the world, but Twist seems to be ready for it, as both players remaining on the RentFree attack are pushing this 90 area.
It's just a matter of if he has to or not. Probably not. Once he hears the audio call, someone trying to push on that hallway, then he can swing, just waiting for the golden moment to strike, essentially. One of those back walls getting opened up, leading a nice new line of sight into bar, but that's really not going to help all that much when both the RentFree players are currently looking into the skull doorway instead. Still having that backwards position over near the south side can allow that study play to really shine in through. RentFree finding one valuable kill, and a second as well. Filthy now having to stick this defuse, though, as there's such little time left. Jay could maybe hit this flank, as we've hit 000. Filthy just gets off the case, and one swing is expected. Filthy with SMG cuts down Jay, leaving just one defender left, and Twist annihilates him as he tries to get in the bomb site, and somehow in a 2 versus 2, or even a 2 versus 4 at the beginning of that execute, RentFree still win the round.
I have decided to cook my words into a fine dining meal, because I have to eat them. I have to eat my words. Arial Rise is not disciplined. They are not disciplined right there. But the way that RentFree played that 2v4 position was actually nearly textbook, because both of them played together. They were ready to trade, but fortunately for them, they just kept on winning their gunfights. Arial Arise, they seemed like they weren't quite ready for the execute to come through. You had the smoke of Jay going back and forth between watching the 90 hallway walk up to bar and the skull door. There was just enough phantom pressure on the 90 push that Mohes, he started calling out, hey, they're going to push 90. Wow. This is where they execute. But it didn't work out. Also, a very nerdy and sexy Cade Claw is coming through in the middle of my analysis.
You love to see that. I've never had someone try to actually go for a K-Claw underneath, but I guess they finally, I guess they ran this map enough. Maybe they dry runned it a lot too, where they eventually are like, all right, let's try this, and work like a charm. I don't think RentFree are going to expect that, but they do have an IQ, so maybe the range could be enough where they spot it, but they might not know it's currently underneath some hard flooring in the basement. But besides that, still a really solid round for RentFree, and definitely one that's going to upset Arial Rise, at least to a small extent. RentFree, though, this time about, they probably want to try to get this vertical established as quickly as possible, because the time management overall has for the most part, been pretty good, so they probably want to keep that track record in pitch. We didn't really see a genuine round played by RentFree last time Dining Room's in play because they just went for a 3-man rush down Memo. I deemed it the conga line because everyone was all just walking together in a pretty fluid motion. This time around, RentFree, they want to try something a little more seriously, and that might get them into some early engagement still because that roam game is still alive and well by the side of Arial Arise.
Yeah, and there's not really been anything so far to make them dead and unwell. That's kind of the opposite, as Tones should have gotten the kill onto Butters, but Jay cleans it up regardless. He'll actually double dip, drop down Twist as well, as Maxley falls at the hands of Tones' Nitro. The only positive is that Dexter got the refrag onto Jay, but it was one extra body too early, and Filthy, he's trying to make something happen over towards the pantry stairs and gets nothing. Guess what, John? It's a 2v4 again.
Now, where have we seen this one before?
Probably
I can't
last
quite
round.
put. Well, all right then. I'll say I can't quite put my finger on it, but you cut me off there. I cut my whole finger off too, but that's all right. Probably better than getting my head cut off at this point. We've seen a lot of that happen with Arial Arise taking the charge in that department. Freak a good shot on a Dexter, leaving us Filthy in a 1v4. So even worse from what we saw last round. Seems very likely we're going to see that even half as, yeah, Freak still hasn't even been dealt with on an extension. And the roam clear altogether on that top floor didn't work out, and then eventually cascaded into a very poor hop in to the first floor, and then just a round one for Arial Arise. So a 3-3 half, not bad at all for Arial, to say the least.
Yeah, not bad at all, especially with how RentFree were looking early on, that they were just going to be surgical, they were going to win every gunfight. Then Arial Arise decided to wake up. They made the adjustments, their fall-offs were cleaner. They were also playing their positions when they didn't need to fall off with a little bit more confidence that helped them to win gunfights. And overall, as things stand, 3-3, not too bad, but you gotta think that it should be a 4-2 for Arial Arise because they let that round 5 slip away. And it could be the difference between overtime, might be the difference between winning this game completely, and might be the difference between overtime win and loss.
And really, when you are in that 10th place position, all the points you can get really matter. At the very least, at least making sure that you don't get put in 11th place. If gaming, do incredibly well against Reality TV next week, just that 1 or 2 points and then having round differential be that main deciding factor, it's going to be huge for Arial Arise. And maybe even, just maybe, depending if LSR do poorly, maybe they could also get that 9th place spot instead and at least survive for another stage and try to do better going in the third one. But besides finally switching, we'll have to see a completely new avenue of approach for both teams, as now the whole, dynamic completely switches on its head, hence the side switch, coin taken, and RentFree stopped to go for their aggressive playstyle, just this time in terms of a roam game, not a roam clear.
Yes, and Dexter with the DMR could be very, very lethal. He likes those high damage weapons. You don't see Dexter playing LMG and just going bird all the time. You always see him on the Yana with the ARX, only 21 bullets, as well as a DMR that, you got to be choosy with your shots. You can't necessarily just be pre-firing all the time. So, maybe he'll put a lot of damage downrange. It's possible. But as the drone work from Arial Arise comes through, don't really see anything too uncommon. It's a bog standard extension over towards Trophy and Statue. A couple of holes in the wall. Make sure that you can't just jump straight into bathroom. You got to go a little bit more creative. And Freak taking the first gunfight is going to be right at the poor time of a nade, and Filthy's going to jump straight out. He's going huge with the shotgun. But in the meantime, there was also a couple of frags on the other side. It's 3-3.
And honestly, not the worst thing that could have happened for RentFree either. At least they've wasted a lot of valuable attacking util, at least those 2 sets of grenades. Twist also died, though, so a lot of that stall potential in the late round is also completely down the drain as well. Arial Arise now opting to completely change up their positions. They want to try to get some of these walls opened up over into the study side of the map just to have some extra lines of sight to go in for that final attack.
Yeah, the final attack is going to come out at some point. But having Filthy already down to about half HP, that does provide a little bit of an edge towards Arial Arise. But that edge is kind of taken off as Butters fells Jay, as well as Maxley on the pre-fire. Had Tones walk straight into his bullets. Reed Adams is left alive in the 2v1 situation, but both players are on low HP. If he has something like the Type 89 or the bearing out and is feeling confident this is still a winnable clutch situation for him.
Ooh, Reed just barely finding, or at least trying to find that kill. Hops up on the bar top table, and Filthy just is not expecting it. Now trying to go for the defuse. Immediately hop off it, expecting Maxley to swing, but still. Pretty winnable spot for Reed altogether. This time sticking that defuse, but now he has the coverage of that bar top table. Maxley now having to try to re-enter the bomb site altogether on such little HP. Reed Adams winning that out with the bearing 9. And Arial Rise now taking up that lead 4-3 after a quick recovery after moving back down and through study.
Yeah, I mean, just as easily as you say, oh, they threw that 4v2, they got that 2v1 back into their favor and looked pretty dang good. You gotta give them the credit. You gotta give them the credit that clutches can happen. I said this is a pretty winnable situation if it's not played correctly. Instead of a 2v1 playing for a trade with the rent-free players, you know, just playing together. They didn't play together. It was a 1v1 and then another 1v1. And unfortunately, Reed Adams had the health advantage in both gunfights and won them both.
Also being able to have the time to readjust as well, trying to bait off that deep second kill, but also then knowing when to fall back and actually confirm that post plant to eventually have to force Maxley to retake the site when he's one shot away from dying. Definitely a good call altogether for Reed, and now to reattempt back onto Aviator in game zone for Rent-Free, where maybe if their roam game works out a little bit better, that could help them in the end game position, because it seems like for Rent-Free they want to reattempt the exact same strat they did on round number 7, now moving into round number 8 as well.
Yes, and taking the lead back is a huge first step for Arial Arise, because we're actually going to see a repeated bomb site, John. We're going right back to where Rent-Free feels like they should have won, because, you know, they kind of should have. A 2v1 situation, not that much HP. You gotta give it to Rent-Free, but they didn't close it out. Sure, as well, the early round from Butters was clean. It was good over towards the Astro telescope close on the bathroom door. But in the meantime, we didn't see the rest of the entry engagements from Arial Arise over towards the brick side. But they went the way of Arial Arise as opposed to Rent-Free. More nades down below, because this is not your study over clear that we saw last round from Arial Arise. They're being sort of dexterous. They're going to be a bit more comfortable switching things up, and they're going for a main stairs take.
And Butters almost has to deal with the front of that, or at least the brunt of that, I should say. For the most part he does, but at least is able to live, so it's not the worst outcome you could have. Jay being able to gather some information that there is somebody over near Boar, but the mute does actually spot the drone up on the lampshade. Can he reach it though? Might try his best to try and destroy it, but it might just be impossible to try to collect. And
Nitro sell it.
Might be the best option if he really hates those drone plays. But besides the point, Jay across the map near main stairs is going to get that first entry. Wisp will go down once again, and seems like that stall potential has really been flattened so far by Arial Rise as they immediately get that control of main stairs. Mohes cuts through Max, and now we've got a huge advantage for Arial Rise. It's doubled down as well. Freak will cut through Filthy's skull, leaving just Dexter and Dexter alone in a 1 versus 5. He may down Jay, that is case, but everyone is just collapsing upon the poor man stuck inside a vault, and another round is found even better by Arial Rise. Great readjustment once again, and really putting the hurt on Rent-Free.
Yeah, I think they kind of realized after seeing the setup the first time that there's a lot of utility allocated over towards the master bedroom, the trophy statue area, and that's the point of emphasis for Rent-Free to stop that push, that they really didn't have enough utility to stop a full front side. They had a shield that Maxley was playing on, but not really much ADSs and not enough information or manpower on his side to have him watch 2 angles at once. He can't watch the study walk in as well as the main stairs walk up. Sure, there are some floor holes that allowed the anchors to really try to stop any main stairs walk up, but when you're Butters and you get naded to 5 HP, you're a little bit distracted on the pain you just got put through to watch the hole that the nade just came through.
And once you have that player who's directly on main stairs gone, having to worry about both people pushing in from study window and doorway on top of main stairs, it can be a lot to deal with. all the exact same time. So that was really good capitalization of working an important entry and then just immediately setting up for Arial Rise to continue to put the hurt on him, like we have now both mentioned in this matchup. RentFree now looking pretty close to match point. They definitely need to up the ante, or else we could for once see Arial Rise take a map win on Villa, a place they have brought out countless times but only now have looked truly strong on.
Yeah, Freak has woken up, and so has the LMG. Tones is having a good game as well. Hopefully he starts waking up a bit more on the knock and we see some shenanigans that he could very well go for. Seems like he's going to be tracking down Dexter, who had the run out from Laundry, and that's going to be the same point of entry for Tones, trying to get a lurking pick, as the rest of the team is taking study side over. There's initial drone work, not really hampered by anything but the Mozzie Pest, but Mohes, he's a little bit comfortable driving a drone. He's done it a few times, and looks like a NASCAR driver, just flying around as quickly as he can.
Arial Rise once again just taking their sweet time, but still gathering a lot of vital map control across the map. And Tones now on that very important lurk role. It's very strong on it, especially towards the late matchup that we saw yesterday when Arial Rise brought this map out. And he might try to find some major importance once again in this game. But like we have both mentioned as well, Freak has also stepped up in a big way too. And it seems like for the most part, the attacker trying to set up that execute. But Filthy, having a bit of information in his own pocket, is able to notice where Freak is playing at. Throws out a Nitro Cell, perfectly timed. And now he's dead. But Mo just walks in the site for a couple seconds, spots out Butters, the Cade is gone, and then he falls back. But that equalized position does not last for very long, as RentFree are still holding these key locations quite well. Except for Maxley, who was kind of caught in a do-or-die spot, tried to go for a gunfight and just wasn't able to win that. But still, a man advantage altogether for RentFree.
Yeah, once again, Mo, that's his old flank watch sort of instincts kicking in, as the flank doesn't quite work until Twist just swings out and will take out Jay. All left up to the Ash of Mohes in a 2v1 position. However, Filthy and Twist, they're not in the closest positions to each other. You know, this still could be isolated out into 1v1s, but Twist, he's too clean across the Ivy gap to lose any gunfight. There was red pings, there was intel, all that bulletproof camera glory really owned in everything for RentFree on that defense.
Yeah, being able to acknowledge that it seemed to be a lot of aggressive pushes coming in through by Arial, especially across the way near studying that 90 position, getting that first entry, and immediately slowing them down. Having to now focus on both the first floor and second floor presence, it seemed like a lot of problems ended up, arising, no pun intended, for the offense. And I was able to grant a lot of really solid one-for-ones that just didn't seem all that likely to be actually killed or be won outright by Arial. Now Dining Room is on the drawing board here for the defense. A pretty challenging site to actually try to defend properly, even when you have a team that is so star-studded on those defensive roam plays.
Yeah, the roam has been almost a point of emphasis for both of these rosters, but you would argue and say that the win conditions have been on towards the anchor play. It's whoever either execute or anchor. A lot of rounds you say can be won on the roam. Who's getting the first picks, and it makes everything so easy. But both of these teams attacking entries and defensive roamers, they've canceled out every round. Vice versa. Really just transitive property for both of these teams. Every round's been like a 3v3, John. It's crazy. And then it comes down to poking and prodding in towards the site, or just being passive and holding your angles. Or running out and spawn peeking. Once again, as we're seeing RentFree trying to get jiggy with it.
Really just trying to have a little more impact in this matchup altogether. Butters not having the best game, but still RentFree keeping it close altogether in the round count. Definitely once again shows their flexibility altogether as a team. And maybe if Butters did find that entry kill, this could have been a pretty easy way to even things up, make it that 5-on-5 round count. But still having Butters at least just be down there, revealing his position from Arial Rise, it forces them to waste more time clearing out that basement position, just to make sure that Butters isn't still playing down there to try to flank in any which way, since you can really utilize that basement floor as a highway, so to speak. That single wall being opened up just slightly by the Excyrus charges, it should give away just enough of a line of sight to deal some damage potentially, depending on the placements of these defenders. But as of right now, it's not really going to bear any any fruit, and that drone, it might have just passed Butters. That could be huge for the defensive side.
Oh, that was 100% a missed drone, and Butters knows that he's been around the block, so he knows that, yep, that drone did not see me. And Reed Adams, he's also been around the block. I don't know if he's going to jump in this window, probably just using it to shoot those X-Kairos pellets and get the breaching going on. But upstairs, Dexter, he falls at the hands of Mo Hess on the Nomad. Back to his good old-fashioned flank watch routes as Twist on the smoke with 3 toxic babes in his pocket goes for an aggressive peek and gets downed. Don't quite know if Freak knows. Yes, he does, as the nade will pick up that down. As Tones also falls at the hands of Filthy, but there's been so much damage done to RentFree.
Yeah, it just might not even matter at this point. Still having a couple of nitro cells, 3 in total for RentFree, despite not having those toxic smokes. They could still deny the entryway from the offense pretty well, as long as they're aware as to how exactly Arial Rise want to attack in these next couple of seconds. But definitely having those smokes to slow down the offense would have been huge. Great shot by Butters. Now feeling himself on this round, will try to maybe get a little more aggressive against the Habana. He knows that he has to try to lead in that charge. Stopping one of those only 2 entryways could be massive. Butters now a 3rd on this round, leaving only Jay stuck in laundry doorway, and Maxley will put him out of his misery. Things completely tied up, despite a couple of silly swings being attempted by RentFree in that round.
Yeah, you know, it looked like a lot of damage was done to RentFree, but Arial Rise, they couldn't quite crack the bomb site itself. That walnut couldn't crack straight into it. And once again, it's the anchor play, just winning rounds after rounds. The entry game, it actually did end up being all evened out. It was a 3v3 once again, John. No team really holding a man advantage after the initial phase of these rounds. Has been quite interesting to watch, especially when it's just a support versus support battle. Filthy, he's not always the most aggressive player in the world, but he's getting involved in the action. Twist, he's the one on the bomb site, and he's out fragging Dexter and Butters, who are off doing whatever they want.
Well, for Arial Rise, even just scoring a single point and guaranteeing overtime is going to definitely be huge. Getting that 1 point might just outright guarantee that Gaming Gladiators cannot, exceed past that 11th place spot. And once again, that does kind of close the gap a bit against LSR as well. So RentFree have a lot here to prove as well, to make sure that Arial Rise cannot even get a single morsel of points. And that might even force them up in the relegation spot completely as well. Seems like we'll still have that aggression thrive once again for RentFree, as their setup looks pretty much similar to what we've seen countless times on Aviator, except now a complete run out by Dexter. It deals loads of damage, but Jay having that information as Dexter's caught outside, he still wins the gunfight. Another entry for the support player.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta take those free entry kills when a warden serves himself up on a silver platter outside like a fish out of water, as well as Butters falling at the hands of Tones. But the refrag from Maxley means that the damage done to Tones and Jay will remain permanent. No healing onto the Finka, and that could actually be probably the best pick that you could have gotten onto any of these Arial Rise players, unless the the execute of Arial Rise is really dependent upon breaching, and you can maybe say killing Reed would help. But he's already done a good amount of his breaching over towards Study. It's not entry breaching. These are just lines of sight that Arial Rise are trying to bisect the bomb site with. Make sure that, yeah, there's certain positions on the bomb site that are power positions that you don't want to have to clear. Make sure that by breaching these certain angles with the X-Kairos pellets that, boom, you can't play those anymore.
Ooh, Filthy trying to get aggressive once again. He wants to work that kill to make sure it's just an even 3-on-3 that we have seen countless times in this matchup. But eventually, that might reveal itself much earlier than expected. Twist, he hears the audio call, the sledge is nearby, but just doesn't know where exactly. Because of that, he ends up dying, and Mo, extending out once again, is able to kill 2 people in that process, leaving just Filthy alone in the middle of 90 corner. 2 players still on full HP. Also Filthy as well, making that 3 in total. Jade's the only one who's been slightly tagged at all in this game, so a very challenging obstacle to overcome. And he has no idea that Reed Adams is, well, even in the middle of Study. I believe the part ping was there at the bulletproof, but I guess he wasn't able to win the gunfight outright. The info was there, but just the swing was a little ill-advised, I suppose. Not much you can really do in the 3v1 altogether, though, but still, match point for Arial Rise. That's massive for them.
Yeah, absolutely massive. As now Arial Rise is tied with points, on points with LSR. However, LSR does have the extra game in hand. So if Arial Arise is able to win this round, it will be absolutely massive with them. They'll actually leap themselves all the way up to being tied with unemployment and making sure that Karn's team starts getting involved with the scary relegation race, as well as putting a lot more pressure on LSR in their game later today. But if we focus right here on this round right now, Trophy Statuary Attack. This is the arguably most important round for Arial Arise's entire season.
And also a pretty important spot for RentFree as well, just try to scrape away as many points as they can altogether. But yeah, definitely a lot more pressure has been applied on the shoulders of Arial Arise in all these games. You know, we've talked about that gradual improvement constantly, as we have seen Villa brought out 4, if not 5 times in a row by Arial Arise, all of them being met with losses at different points of the matchup itself. And for once, Arial Arise, they actually look in control for the most part, especially in comparison to the other games they've played. So really, a lot does lie in for them, and if they can just keep up that decent entry game and just keep up that consistent team play, this could be a 7-5 victory. But I guess we gave him the caster curse because Butters doing the exact same peak that we saw a few rounds ago. It actually bears him some fruit. Mohes, the first one to die.
Yes, and Butters has woken up on the defensive side, which is good, but more damage going over towards Jay. I don't know if that was a team damage or if that was any shenanigans on a window bang or something like that from across the map. But as Mohes has gone down, that is one set of nades, which is incredibly unfortunate because how Arial Arise look to take this is a master take, which usually would involve a good amount of map control towards kitchen and throwing nades at the floor to remove certain positions, probably net a couple of kills, and maybe even remove any anti-breaching matters off of the wall. But guess what, John? There's none. There's no mute, bandit, Kaid, anything. If they want to get this wall for free with Reed's X-Kairos pellets, they can.
And it seems like we might have a free kill as well for RentFree. Freak just running him blind a little bit, it seems, not fully aware of Dexter's position. Oh, Finka is now gone as well. No grenades in the pocket of Arial Arise, and really a lot of their utility just seems a bit unnecessary at this point. The only thing that's being all that helpful have been the X-Kairos charges, and that is just about it, because you mentioned the lack of any anti-breach, so the EMPs haven't really been able to disable that many gadgets at a timely manner. 1:20 left. Tones is currently just crouch walking his way up from the basement in through red stairs. Maybe he'd go for a hero play if his teammates are able to distract the rest of the defense enough, but still having that defensive roam, there's a potential for a counter flank as well, where Tones might find 1 or 2, but then swiftly gets refragged, but only time will tell. This timing actually might be huge for Tones. He collects onto 1, Twist though still doing enough to get a singular kill into Reed Adams, but Tones once again will strike, and now expects that retake to maybe occur in a couple of seconds. But Filthy, he's not going to immediately jump the gun. He'll hold out that C4, maybe waiting for someone to play close near that statue doorway, but now he'll think better of it, falls back just a bit, because RentFree, they still have that man advantage, but not for very much longer. Filthy, as he detonates C4, will get caught in a bad spot by Tones, finding 3 kills for himself in that round. The Lurk player doing a fabulous job. Matter of fact, with just about half a minute left, things completely evened up. A smoke to obscure some vision and maybe allow a false bait leading in the sight. Jay now trying to stick this defuse. Tones swings wide, trying to work another kill, but so far cannot connect the shots. 0 seconds left on that defuse. Jay hops off the case and immediately springs into action. A kill on him, actually. Only Dex left alive. This could finally be the end of this cycle. We could see a win for Arial Arise, and they get it done. All 3 points for them, and for once they do so well on this map. It might be a ban finally from some opponents they face in the last Playday for Playday number 9.
Yeah, massive plays from Arial Arise, a 3v5 position. I wanted to talk about in that round of, hey guys, guess what? This is one of the very few times that we've seen after the initial phase of a round that the man count wasn't even. But guess what? Arial Arise didn't care. Tones on the Lurk, not even on the knock, this time with a Twitch, a slightly better weapon if you prefer the F2 over the FMG9, then you're a normal human being, and that allowed him to just go for the 3K. He went massive. He provided pressure on one side that allowed openings over towards Bathroom and Master for the rest of his teammates like Jay to start hopping in and putting that pressure once again. Beautiful stuff from Arial Arise.
Yeah, and the Lurk play finally shining through for Tones. He did so much for his team there, and once again, just everyone really stepping up in all their departments. We saw a lot of really good supportive plays by Jay, and finding a couple entry kills as well here and there too. And although we had RentFree still up to their same old shenanigans, it seemed like Air the Rise were still able to get a pretty good read on them to win out in regulation, that 7-5 victory. Another close 7-5 on Villa, funny enough, and another death segment that'll probably have some pretty spicy thoughts about how this matchup played out, as now Air the Rise, they finally have a win.
Well, I'm not even going to waste much time. I'm just, Tanner, I'll just let you have the floor.
Oh, yes. Yes. I'm sorry, but I still like to see my boys do well. Like, they've been struggling, and they've been going through the ringer the last few weeks, and for a team to come in and, do 6 maps a day for an entire week with the substitute player, that's big even for the Ape standard when it comes to work. And it showed off in these last couple of play days. They've looked absolutely competitive in all of them. Just some great clutches coming out from everybody. The biggest change that I noticed from yesterday to today from the side of Arial Rise was the fact that they were resetting when they got the man advantages. Tones coming in, making some absolute great plays on the lurk, especially that last round where he picked up a 4K. We had Reed Adams going in and a 1v3K. Just winning a 1v3 clutch, getting the bomb down. It was just an absolute stellar performance coming out from Arial Rise. Some really questionable mistakes coming out from RentFree, such as Dexter on round 11 jumping out and then wide swinging Jay for the entry death. It just felt like something was off on the side of RentFree, and Arial Rise, they played a good game. There were some mistakes. Obviously, don't want to lose that 2v5, but they made up for it in the aggregate. And Reed Adams coming up huge, and Tones coming up huge, and Jay coming up huge, and Freak coming up huge, and Mo coming up huge. It was just a good game.
Take a breath. Take a breath. I need you to breathe. We need you for 2 more matches here. So we'll take a moment. We'll switch over to CJ so that he can use up some of that breath he's been storing. I gotta say, CJ, though, although there were errors on the side of RentFree, this was a match where it was like a massive pendulum that just kept swinging back and forth. And I know we used the term no quarter before, but man, there were rounds where RentFree was really sticking it to Arial Rise.
Yeah, the 2 versus 5, where I'm sure we would be just as excited as Forceful was for Ariel. We'd be feeling the same way about RentFree.
100%.
Game went the other way. The 2 versus 5 was absurd. It started with Freak getting cut down by Twist hopping in that your window, and then from there, Filthy and Twist, the duo that nobody ever imagined before this stage. Let me tell you, they win that 2 versus 5. It's looking pretty, but Ariel was just more clutch, and Tones was he was my highlight player, and he showed up today big in that last round.
Now the stats will be up here in just a minute. Tanner, the thing that it's going to be really interesting when the stats pop up is with that pendulum swing, we had players where it's like we're talking about them like for a few rounds we're like, oh man, they're invisible, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden, good example would be Reed, where he had that massive round. I believe it was a 3K plus the plant in AV.
Yeah, I mean, there was some players just had a slow start. So Reed had a slow start. I'd say Butters and Dexter had a slow start. Towards the end of the game, Butters was showing up in a massive way when it came to the entry department. He was getting good spawn peaks. And Filthy, we can't say enough about how well Filthy was doing that game. He was getting some really big picks. He had those clutches, and it just felt like it was Filthy versus the world, especially for the first 6 rounds of this game. But, obviously, like I said, everyone's showing up in a big way. Tones on his second game of being in Challenger League as a sub, comes in. He had an absolute pivotal round that last round. It's just it was a collective team effort coming out from Arial Rise, and the resiliency to not get dejected when they lose a 2v5 like that, and to make sure that they just reset and come back to the next round is exactly what they needed today, and that's why they were successful.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It can't be understated that, hey, you drop a bad round, it doesn't matter. That's all done in that round. It doesn't matter if you won it great, if you won it poorly, or lost it, sorry. You just come back for the next one. But speaking of the next one, the next interview is going to be Reed, and we'll throw a few questions his way, Tanner. I know you're giggling with excitement for this one. Reed.
Hello.
Nail biter of a match. I gotta say, did you guys come into this with the attitude of backs against the wall, or is it another game that you just kind of treat as an individual matchup?
I mean, I won't lie to you. We were definitely kind of coming into it with a little bit of it's kind of do or die. You can say as much as you want, it's just another game, but at the end of the day, we know what the standings are, and we know what we have to get done. So, luckily enough today, we handled business. Major props to Tones. He was definitely killing on the lurk today. So yeah, handle business.
Well, I was gonna say 2 of the rounds that stick out most in my mind for this win for you guys was your play going into bar with the plant getting that down in the 3K. But then later on, that lurk by Tones in a round that maybe wasn't really looking like it was going to go your way, and he just shut it down.
Oh yeah, I mean, Tones absolutely pulled that match point round out of nowhere, and then I mean that 1v3 just had to get a little lucrative right there with the flashbangs. And then they just didn't see that one coming. So you know, I mean, I don't know really what they were thinking playing Villa, because I mean we thought we were gonna go to bank, like almost guaranteed, but you know, I don't know, maybe they were just kind of pugging it out on Villa, because I know, like, you know, there's some rumors maybe they just don't really care that much anymore, but hey, you know, I'm glad they took us to Villa. I mean, obviously our Villa hasn't been that strong recently, but you know, it is what it is, and we got it done. So
Does this mean now that you can focus a little less on that you know, bottom of the chart stage 2 and get back to focusing on your overall season points?
oh yeah, we're definitely, you know, I mean, our heads are kind of just always on playoffs. I mean, you know, this season's kind of at this point not necessarily the most salvageable, so we're definitely more focused on, you know, our playoff points. Obviously we do want to avoid that relegation spot. Luckily today I think Karn's team, they got like, you know, 1 point or something, and so that's good for us today. Obviously now that we got 3, so you know, definitely pumped, and definitely look forward to stage 3 so we can keep that playoff spot.
Well, once again, it was a big win. Congratulations, Reed. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, we're gonna flip to a quick break because I'm pretty sure that Tanner he needs some more breath. I feel out of breath just thinking about how out of breath Tanner must be from that rant. But I'm sorry, I had to do it to you.
Read
We're
from
gonna
the
go
top rope Adams, man. You can't never love an interview from that guy. You always love the interviews from him.
Okay, we're gonna flip to a quick break. When we come back, TTK taking on LSR.